every walk I go on, I am always on the lookout. Every oak tree gets thoroughly scanned for oak galls. I have a fresh new badge to add to what I already have. Or, here's a novel idea. What if we actually start using the oak galls instead of just storing them in already 3 storage vessels? Today, however, I do not wish to dye any wool. I know, shocking. No, today actually I want to try my hand at making ink for, writing, drawing, mostly drawing. To guide me in these ink-making endeavors, I'm turning to Encre des Plantes by Elisabeth Dumont. Yes, this is a French book, but I would be highly surprised if there aren't any English translations or variants online. I got this at the Papal Palace in Avignon. I was intrigued and I was like, maybe one day I want to try. And I know French. Being Belgian, almost immediately means that you're multilingual, so yay! What I'm going to do today is I'm going to follow the basic recipe for oak gall ink that is in the book. I like this book because it also gives variants and even historic recipes. There is a medieval recipe in here. I am very much tempted to do that. However, they ask for things like 1.5 pounds of oak galls. I think they were probably making ink for an entire scriptorium in a monastery. I am not. I'm just making ink for myself. And the basic recipe that is in this book is a recipe for approximately 10 centiliters of ink, which I think is just about what I could use. First step of this process, turn the oak galls into powder. Powder achieved. Oak galls are the eggs of gall wasps, oak gall wasps, and they can come in many different shapes and sizes. The one you will see me use throughout this video, or well, I guess it's right now already in powderized form, are these. Really round, hard wooden ones. These are the ones that I find most commonly where I am. But, as I said, many shapes and forms. This is also one that I have in my collection of oak galls, which is a little bit more structured, is also a little bit more reddish yellow of color. And then there are Teenage Mutant Ninja acorns. I am not kidding. This is what is called a knopper gall, and it is attached, as you can see, to an acorn. I've got a couple of those as well. You find these on branches, on leaves, and on acorns on the oak tree. Because they are attached in a very parasitic way to the oak tree, like little vampires, they the tannins out of the tree. So all of these are really rich in tannins, and this is why they are really good at becoming a mordant, a dye, or in this video, an ink. Teenage Mutant Ninja acorns! 1, 2, 3, 4 acorns. Also, little tip, don't ask me how I know this, but especially when you pick these kind of oak galls in spring, leave them out with an open lid, or you might have a massacre of wasps on your hands. Oh, and those 3 most certainly aren't the only forms of oak galls. Those are just the 3 that I have in my studio, which also recently has got a new door. More daylight in my studio. Now of that pulverized oak galls, we need 12 grams. There are some of you, I know, I see you, that have been continuously aggravated, annoyed by me using this very non-specific, not really exact vintage scale. Fear not, for this video we will be precise, so this is the only moment you will see it. What's that? Into being precise? Where's the chaos? Not today. Yeah, I'm not going to be so precise that I'm going to take out 0.09 grams. That's not going to happen. Those 12 grams of oak gall powder will now be on a soft boil with half a liter of water for a couple of hours. I will repeat once more, as I do in most of my dye videos, and it's no different that this is an ink making video. Well ventilated space. Don't use your pots, pulverizer, spoon, whatever that you use for this for food. Just don't. Our oak gall solution has greatly reduced. I think it's time for the next steps. If this were a regular schmegular dyeing video, actually there would not be any next steps. We have now produced a very tannin-rich liquid that would be great for either mordanting or straight up dyeing wool. But we're making ink. We're making ink. This is not where we're ending. We're going to do some more stuff. In lieu of a coffee filter, I'm going to use this scrap linen fabric as a filter. Coffee is just disgusting. That's my opinion. And now we're going to add this thing, gum arabic. A binder medium to make ink actually do the ink thing. And of this we need 6 grams. And now the recipe book tells us to reheat or heat the mixture. I'm doing this a little bit au bain-marie, just because I think we just had a little bit too little liquid to actually make this work in my big pot. Yeah, I could have cleaned my big pot beforehand, but why would I do that? I want this to become ink as quickly as possible. I want to draw with this. Because it is, of course, no secret that ink is one of my favorite mediums to draw with. And then our final ingredient is another 6 grams of iron sulfate. And this iron sulfate is what will make our ink look actually black. And for the final step in this ink making process, I'm just going to decant it into this little cute bottle. Oopsie, but you can see it's black. Here we have our own little bottle of black oak gall ink. It looks convincing, doesn't it? It looks like it could play the part. However, we're not done yet, right? We're not done yet. We should also test if this ink is good for drawing. Let's draw with our homemade ink, shall we? I have brought my pens and boar bristle brush that is seen better days, because that is actually my favorite way to draw with ink. It's with these messed up boar bristle brushes. The dry ink technique, if you know, you know. Anyway, but let's first start with the traditional way of working with ink, a pen. I have brought some shells over here as kind of still life objects. I think drawing with ink is very freeing. Because, well, there is no going back. Some people might think that as scary, like there is no going back, you can't erase what you have just drawn, but I think that actually gives freedom. Because, well, you can't erase, you can't strive for perfection. It really is a lot more vibes-based drawing for me when I work with ink. There is no eraser. I don't want to get perfection, I just want vibes and feelings. And oh my god, I'm actually drawing with my own ink and it's going really nice. Fun thing, when I'm working with this, I'm seeing that when I put it on the paper, it's actually kind of a gray ink. It's lighter than I had imagined it, but it dries really dark. Like it's still oxidizing when I'm working with it, and that's really cool actually to see that happening. It also really wants to work a long time. I don't have to dip my pen a lot in this ink. I'm actually pretty stoked with how this works up with a pen. You can draw all the nice lines, you can go really light, you can go really bold and dark. Yeah, oh my god, I made ink. I made actually usable, good ink. However, we still have the board bristle brush test. This is my technique, I use it all of the time. Let's try if this ink stands up to the dry ink technique. Just going to use the page next to it. All in all, I feel like it's less viscous than the ink I'm used to working with for this technique. It works fine, as you can see, but my ink is a little bit more watery than the one I'm used to using at art school, but that's like a East Indian ink, which I think is made with soot, if I'm correct. Did the inevitable just happen? Of course it did. It's me we're talking about. I mean, it took a long while for me to throw over my pot. I'm actually a little bit sad about that. My heart worked ink. I'm trying to, well, I could save most of it. There still is more than half of it in the pot. And I'm also trying to squeeze out most of what I mop up with this paper towel. My ink, my precious ink. Everybody saw this coming, of course. Now, to ease all of your worries, while yes, there was a little bit of an accident with my sketchbook, actually none of my favorite drawings are hurt by it. What's a sketchbook without a little story, right? Yeah, that's just, it adds to it being a sketchbook. It's allowed to get dirty in accidents. Anyway, talking about sketches. I really like both. I enjoy working with this ink a lot. I think I enjoyed working with the pen with this ink most. Like, normally I would do this technique all the time, but I think I would rather do that with regular East Indian, Chinese ink, whatever. Yeah, but with the pen, this was actually much more enjoyable than regular ink because it was less viscous. As I said, that the viscosity of the other ink, of the traditional ink, the soot-based ink, makes this more enjoyable, but the fact that this is less viscous and thus keeps drawing for longer, like your ink keeps flowing for longer, makes this really enjoyable for pen drawings. I think I want to make a couple more. I'm happy I was able to save most of my ink. This is good ink. I will make more. I have all the ingredients now and very nice. Oh yeah, I'm really happy with this. I didn't think I would succeed in this so tremendously, to have such good ink, which is weird because it's really actually really simple. Like, you saw me do this, you can do this. If you're intrigued by making your own ink, I'd say go for it, because it's actually not at all that hard. And I think this would also be great ink for writing, just because of it being a little bit less viscous. I think it would write very smoothly and without much hiccups. That's what I think. But with it being very high in iron content, maybe not so good for like fountain pens, and I would prefer nib pens that you wash out every time, because I can take the nib out and replace it every now and then. Yeah, this has been a foray in something almost adjacent to my regular content. So if you're new here, mostly I do knitting, spinning, all the wool related things, but I really enjoyed diving into something else, which was kind of related, because this is just 2 ingredients more than a regular natural dye vat. I'm just looking at my fingers. I just washed my hands, I promise, but these are going to look like this for at least a week. I'm sorry. Yes, I hope you enjoyed that little foray into something else. And if you like craft shenanigans, but of course more specifically, mostly it is fiber art shenanigans, then maybe you could like, comment or subscribe, but of course that is all up to you. And as for me, I will see you in a next video. But before we do that, here are some more craft shenanigans.